Welcome to my grammar segment on the apostrophe. I have a fair warning for each of you watching this lecture right now. Once you learn apostrophe awareness, there's no going back. You will never be able to unsee the mistakes on social media. Proceed with caution and at your own risk. Before we get started, I'd like to kick things off with a joke. Dear apostrophe, thank you for being pretty cool, even though sometimes you're a bit possessive. I start with this joke because that is one of the functions of the apostrophe, to show possession, to show that something belongs to something else. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand the purpose and function of the apostrophe. You will see some of the most common mistakes that occur in writing using the apostrophe, and you will know how to identify if you are using the apostrophe correctly in your own writing. There are two main functions of the apostrophe. The first is to show possession, and the second is to take the place of missing words and letters. What do I mean by showing possession? That means that instead of saying, the bowl belonging to the dog is on the floor, you would say, the dog's bowl is on the floor. Which one is less awkward and more concise? I'm hoping you said the second one. With the second sample, we have about 3 words that are cut and replaced with an apostrophe S. This makes for clean, crisp writing that your reader can follow. The second rule is really a tack on to the first rule. We've already seen that the apostrophe S takes the place of words to show possession, but what if you just want to make a little less formal writing through the use of contractions? In these samples, the subject is getting smushed together with part of the verb. Instead of being formal and saying, he is going to the store, the apostrophe cuts out a letter and allows for an informal and smoother read of he's going to the store. The same is true of all of these samples. Only one letter was cut out to allow these words to have an informal and smoother sound. They're running late instead of they are running late. Sheila's up next for giving a speech instead of Sheila is up next for giving a speech. While the concept appears to be fairly easy, you would be surprised how many different ways people use the apostrophe. The next several slides are going to go over some of these mistakes, including some you might have seen floating around on the internet and social media. The 5 most common mistakes are the rogue apostrophe, there, whose versus whose, your and your, its and its. Let's take a little bit closer look at each of these. First up is the rogue apostrophe. What is a rogue apostrophe? It's an apostrophe that plain does not belong. I most commonly see this with students who were never taught how to use an apostrophe and end up putting an apostrophe on every word with an S at the end. For example, here we have a jar of strawberries. To make this plural, the one labeling the jar decided to use an apostrophe S. Ouch. The correct way to label this jar would have been to turn the Y at the end into IES. Alas, now no one can eat the contents of this jar because this jar belongs solely to the strawberry. Here we have the level of pain that you will all soon be experiencing as you are now aware that the apostrophe is to show possession or to take the place of letters and words you are cutting out. How many apostrophe fails can you count in this one scene? Pause the video and see if you can find them all. Another common mistake is using the wrong form of there. For the first spelling, I have a little trick to help you remember. There, T-H-E-R-E, is a location. Think of the word here, H-E-R-E, then add the T to get there. For there, T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, you have a contraction and eliminating one of the letters. To know what this one is, break this into the two parts, they and are, and you'll know if that's the one you really want. This leaves us with only one other spelling of there, the T-H-I-E-R. For this one, if the other two do not fit your sentence, this is likely the spelling you want. This is the possessive pronoun. That means it belongs to them. I know, it doesn't fit the same rule I told you earlier. That's because the possessive pronoun works just a little bit differently. So long as you remember to ask yourself what form of there you are using, you'll do just fine. Even if you need to use a little memory trick to do so. And try not to purposely break the internet just because you know the difference in the different types of there available to you. You're better than that. Pause the video if you want to read the comic strip to catch my reference. The next common mistake with the apostrophe is the difference between whose and whose. This goes back to understanding that with pronouns, you have to break anything with an apostrophe into the two words. In this case, we have whose, W-H-O apostrophe S, which is really who is. And then you have whose, W-H-O-S-E. This one is your possessive pronoun asking who does this belong to. For example, whose pen is this? The same can be said for your and your. Y-O-U-R is the possessive pronoun, whereas Y-O-U apostrophe R-E is the contraction of you and are. Spelling on this level is important and does make a difference in the meaning of your sentences. Take this one, for example. These two are completely different meanings. And more to the point, you really don't want someone correcting your grammar when you really need saved from a situation like this. And then, of course, we have the famous text argument. Understanding where to use that contraction and where not to can go a long way. And as I love my English puns, here is one to show you the difference between its, I-T apostrophe S, and its, I-T-S, because it's not rocket science. Again, this one goes to my love of English puns. Honestly, this would be my kind of party. And as I know the importance of visuals in grasping a concept, I'm also including one to show the pattern for some of the more common contractions. And just to help you out with some other commonly confused words, I have this visual for you to help you know which spelling to use when. Please pause the video or come back as often as needed to reference this material. I hope that you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to your professor using the learning management system and the email icon. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the flip side.